So, I watched Cats 2019. The movie, based off of the Broadway musical written by the one and only Andrew Lloyd Webber, whom you might recognize as the same name behind a certain Phantom of the Opera. I am astounded that I managed to make it through the entire 110-minute runtime. In all honesty, I'm very proud of myself. I think I came out of this a stronger person. Because, to be quite frank, this experience was the closest I have ever come to pioneering the world's first ever self-inflicted amygdal hippocampal lobotomy, which would have gone swimmingly, I'm sure. We will address that shortly. Before I can talk about the movie, we have to understand how the movie happened first, and in order to do that, I need to regale you with some history and context. Oh boy, let's get into it. Our boy, Andrew, here, decided that one day he would take T.S. Eliot's 1939 poetry collection, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, and put it to song and dance on a whim, just for funsies. And this must have been one of those flukes in the Matrix because it ended up winning Best Musical at both the Laurence Olivier and Tony Awards. It ran for 21 years on the London circuit and 18 years on the Broadway circuit. And by 2012, it had grossed $3.5 billion worldwide. So it was a raving success, and yes, I am as shocked as Cole was when he found out that other cats actually have tails. So, we have our wildly successful cultural phenomenon, and, of course, Universal decides that it's high time for them to buy the rights to the potential cinematic masterpiece that is Cats, or could be Cats. All that's left for them to do is let it incubate for a few years and developmental limbo, watch as a fluke like Les Mis becomes the darling of the Academy, bask in the unfortunate decision by Disney executives to relive their glory days in live action to the tune of several million buckaroos, widen their eyes at the unexpected success of Greatest Showman, and then voila, they have successfully diluted themselves into thinking that Cats 2019 might be a good idea and won't go horribly wrong. Universal understood that it had enough financial incentive to get Cats 2019 out of developmental hell, banking on names like director Tom Hooper, who directed Les Mis, the darling pop star Tay Swifty, people's nostalgia goggles, and love of show tunes in general, in order to ride a wave to easy profits and Academy Awards. So what did go wrong exactly? If this movie was formulaically destined for financial success, then what went wrong? Now, I could just tell you that it was simply all easily chalked up to the shitty CGI released trailer in July of 2019 that turned off the audience's interest wholesale to a Cats 2019 musical movie, and wash my hands of this clusterfuck once and for all, but by gosh diddly, I will live up to my internet autism diagnosis and give you a more full picture, ladies and gentlemen. I was raised to whole-ass things, dagnabbit, not half-ass them. So sit back, grab a beer, enjoy, as I regale to you in excruciating detail exactly how Cats 2019 flopped so damn hard at the box office. Some would say that Cats' downfall was met in the summer of 2019 with its trailer release, but I am inclined to disagree. I think the problem is of a more central nature, specifically regarding the intention behind the production itself, specifically the intention of its higher-ups, Tom Hooper, to name a specific one. You see, the purpose of making Cats 2019 was not to make a decent adaptation of the beloved stage production that had broken records on the London and Broadway circuits for decades. No. That's second fiddle. Primary goals for this adaptation were to capitalize on the original production's notoriety, specifically, and the recent trend of live action using its latest and greatest resources, VFX. The average time it takes to produce a 60 to 90 second animation is roughly 6 weeks. Now, there are a lot of factors that do contribute to this number, such as the quality of the animations, the quantity of dynamic aspects on screen, the uniqueness of those aspects in both movement and in detail. Now, none of those are technical terms. Sue me, I'm not an animator. But then, of course, neither is our director, or at the very least, he has no real experience working with VFX of this magnitude prior to signing on to this project. So, That's something to remember. Rehearsals for the production began in September of 2018, with principal filming to begin in December of 2018, wrapping in March or April of 2019, with a release date of December 2019. Just in time to make the billing for the awards season. Excuse me, sorry. Therefore, that left only 8 to 9 months for the VFX artists to work their magic on an entire 110-minute film with a director who had absolutely no experience in the field, working with VFX. Our first look at the thing, as I've mentioned before, came in July of 2019 when the first trailer dropped, and it was received with less than stellar rave enthusiasm that it so desperately sought for. And as a result, artists had to pull even more hellish work hours in an attempt to correct the mistake, all while working under the tyranny of an incompetent buffoon who didn't know what he wanted for his final cut, but oh so desperately wanted to sit in a big boy chair, rehashing the glory of his previous hot Broadway adaptation. Therefore, he saw fit to change things, suggest edits, dictate alterations to the concepts in the middle of all their mad scrambling to put out a final project, and honestly, I feel so sorry for the VFX guys on this project. In fact, they were so behind on production that post wasn't completed until just hours before it was set to premiere for an audience for the very first time. Hours! In fact, there was a re-release of the film with better effects after said official premiere due to some less than stellar glitches and hiccups so embarrassingly witnessed by Hollywood's elite. And so, the film's prospects floundered and perished, much like Hooper's dreams of landing another Oscar. Because after all, that was all this was really about, let's be honest. That, and making a quick cash grab. Speaking of visuals, let's talk about another reason why this movie was prepped and ready and primed for failure from the onset. Cats is not a movie. Cats is a musical. A rather shitty one, if you ask me, in my not-so-humble opinion. But it is a musical nonetheless. Perhaps I'll grant that there is a possibility, a slight possibility, that I am so judgy about this inherent stage popularity because I've only ever seen the cinematic rendition of this musical and not the stage performance itself. I'll grant that the silver screen and the Broadway stage are very different mediums that offer fairly different benefits for their audiences. But you see, that is exactly the problem. That is my point. Cats is a musical, not a movie. To give you a notion of what it is that I mean by this, a stage performance, especially a musical one, is expected to have an audience that is willing to suspend their expectations of reality for a moment or several due to the limitations of live and in-person stage productions. I've talked at length about non-diegetic sound in my review on The Little Mermaid 2018 and how the inclusion of an out-of-place narrative exposition song was jarring because it was the only instance of that occurring in a musical. However, musical diegesis is not only expected, but it is the whole point. That is the medium. It is a way of condensing narrative construction and plot into an easily digestible and in some cases catchy way. You can't see the actors' faces up close, so you have to guess what they're emoting in another way, that being the way that they emote with their voices in song. You don't get the pleasure of viewing a growing up montage, so a character's life story has to be dictated to you somehow, and usually that's in a musical format. Whereas in cinema, you do have those little conveniences to bank on, especially with recent advancements in CGI technology and in editing abilities. The ability to micromanage every little aspect of the film demands that the film go the extra mile to show you rather than tell you the story, to be realistic within the bounds of the reality of the story being told. A director, therefore, has to know its medium in order to be effective. A stage director does not conduct a musical the same way that a film director would conduct a movie. That is the same for books and editors and writers. That is the same for musicals, plays, and without exception, that is the same for cinema. A great example of visual storytelling is the scene from Up depicting Ellie and Carl's relationship throughout time. This works spectacularly well on screen. That is where it shines. But it would absolutely flounder on stage. Another example of visual storytelling can be found in the opening scene of Back to the Future, which depicts a household cluttered with memorabilia and tinkerings of a man of science and innovation, setting up Doc Brown's character effectively before we've even met the guy. before a word is even spoken. It's noteworthy that when I say it's better to show rather than tell in a film, I don't just mean show as in visually. This scene from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation does an excellent job of taking sound, not narration, sound, in combination with visuals of the characters reacting to a sound to depict the level of disturbance their funneled, fashioned family Christmas is about to impose on them. All this is to make the point that film shines in its ability to deliver a story visually and without an abundance of narration, which we have an abundance of in song form within musicals. I mean, there's a reason why we haven't had massively successful live-action musicals since, I don't know, The Sound of Music. And don't give me that crap about Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, or Les Mis grossing more than The Sound of Music internationally. They don't even compare when we just box office numbers to the inflation rates of today. I've done the math, right? Cats doesn't work as a film simply because the songs are 100% character introductions and plot dumps for you, the audience, the people watching it. Which brings up another issue, because frankly, the plot dumps, they're not done well. Like I said, I haven't had the pleasure of beholding Cats the Musical on stage, so I don't know how much of it made it over to the screen. That being said, while watching this film, I didn't know what was going on for a solid 30 minutes, and what I did understand of the film left me with even more questions that remain unanswered even to this day after having Googled things ad nauseum. For instance, what does it mean to be jellicle? A jellicle cat? What's the jellicle ball? What specifically did Grisabella do to piss off everyone so bad? What and where is Heaviside Layer, and why does it sound like a Heaven's Gate thing? Why is everyone so afraid of McCavity if all he does is respawn them into another location? If I were to describe this plot to you in terms that I understood it, Cats 2019 is the story of Judi Dench's character, Old Deuteronomy, the Cowardly Lion, and her nefarious yet overly convoluted plot to get rid of Jennifer Hudson's character, Grisabella the Glamour Cat, for reasons not specifically known to us, but let's just say, because it's easier, she was hanging out with some not-so-cool cats. I will say, I can't really blame the movie for this one, I don't think. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. It is, after all, a movie based off of a musical, based off of a collection of non-specifically connected T.S. Eliot children's poems based on cats. So I will allow for it to have a shitty plot in peace. Don't get used to it because it's not going to last. Because I'm about to attack the cast, and I'm not going to be as nice. So I did a little bit of Googling of Grisabella the Glamour Cat while I was watching the movie, because I was curious as to who it was that played our out-of-luck cat who was hated by all, and the Google machine told me the following. J. Hud is an American singer and actress. She rose to fame in 2004 as a finalist on the 3rd season of American Idol, placing 7th. Well, she definitely earned that 7th place for this movie, I must say. That is to say, she flub notes. A lot.
I must wait for the sunrise. I must think of a new life.
Like a lot. And she's not the only one who flubbed. These were not Broadway stars that they got for this movie, nor were they trained in any such way that would have prepared them adequately for the theater style that Cats is in, and you can absolutely tell that. Then there's the matter of Tay Swifty's character, cat character, whatever. Because I thought that this was T. Swifty for a solid majority of the movie, because it had to be. That was the only explanation for the amount of billing that Tay Swifty had when it came to advertising for this movie. Otherwise, I have to accept the fact that Tay Swifty played this cat rather and had all of 10 minutes of screen time allotted to her. Frankly, it feels a little bit disingenuous, I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of which, when we get to Swift, she is woefully miscast to perform a vocal style that she was not made for. I kid you not. Think sexy burlesque singer, quite close to the style of Christina Aguilera's Guy What Takes His Time from Burlesque, the movie. If I were to give you an example of exactly what it is that I think they might have been going for, they absolutely missed the mark with Taylor, whose breathy soprano lacks the full-bodiedness to make this song work. I'm gonna stop before my head explodes. 1 out of 10 stars. Do not burden yourself with this baggage. Ladies and gentlemen, please and thank you. Honestly, it was so hard to finish the script for this video. Not because I lacked in things to say about it, rather because I had to go back and relive the experience, and that was traumatizing. And I'll have to probably do that in post as well, and then reviewing this in post, and then may God have mercy on my soul. You can make it worth my while by supporting the channel however you see fit, whether that be by liking, subscribing, commenting your thoughts, joining in on the memberships or the Patreon, or simply just by joining our Discord community. It's all very much appreciated. Y'all are the ones that make this happen. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.